So, what made you want to expand out the application? Because you said initially it was just this very simple Python script, and eventually you started bringing in this graphical interface for it, additional effects, and all of this extra stuff. But why did you want it to do even more?
So before doing this, and maybe even before starting, I started to use PulseEffects built-in equalizer. I use the nowadays people will use Pipewire's filter chain for that. That is configured, editing a few text files to put in place a filter chain. At the time, we did this with PulseAudio, but with a lot more limitations. There was a very limited choice of plugins that you could put there.
Mhm.
But in general, the problem with this approach is when you need to experiment with the parameters. When you already know how you have to set the plugins,
Mhm.
it's not a big deal. But when you are still trying to figure out the proper values,
Mhm.
uh, it is a lot easier to have a window
Right.
where you put the values and you see on the fly
Mhm.
how the audio is being changed. So the main reason why I put a graphical interface in the Python script was to be able to change on the fly what the filters were doing.
Mm.
So that was the reason for it to get a graphical user interface.
Mhm.
The other features, they actually came when other people started to get interested in what
Mhm.
the application did. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I would say that more than half of what this effect does were put there because of users' requests.
Mhm.
For
Mhm.
example, at the time I created this application, I had no need for a microphone pipeline.
Mm.
Video conferences were not a thing I had to do, like, for example, we are doing now.
Mhm.
So I just cared about effects for the output of application, not input. One day, one user suggested that it was cool.
Mhm.
It was within my reach to do it. So I did. The same thing happened to almost everything else.
Mhm.
Most of the plugins that are there, quite a lot of the functionality, it was because people requested, I could do it, it was fun to do, so it was done.
So, if I understand correctly, the graphical interface started as a way to more easily test the filters, and then people
Yeah,
realized that was useful, and then started adding in extra functionality they also felt was useful, and eventually it kind of became this like big application for doing lots of audio effects to your input and output devices, I guess.
yes, I didn't start with big ambitions.
Mhm.
It was just solving an immediate problem that I had. Eventually, I thought, well, maybe this will be useful for other people.
Mhm.
And when other people started to use it, they started to suggest new functionality. And whenever it was easy to do, I implemented it. Eventually, other people started to collaborate,
Mhm.
especially Flatpak people
Mhm. Mhm.
started to collaborate because package management is just not my thing. I do my own package, my own custom Arch Linux package,
Mhm.
but maintaining for other people, no.
Right, right, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm assuming that
So
because you have the AUR, the package build, I'm assuming you use Arch Linux yourself then?
by the time I started this project, I was already using Arch Linux. I have
Mhm.
been using Linux for more than 20 years. I have used more distributions than I can remember now, but
Mhm.
Arch Linux is already the one I've used the most. I
Mhm.
probably have been using it for 10 years. I would say. The data has been quite.
Mhm,
It was actually the first place I announced these effects was probably on Arch Linux forum.
mhm, mhm. Awesome. Awesome. Um, so as the project progressed, it got a GUI. It got that. Was the first GUI that GTK3 GUI, the old one it had? Or was there a different one before that?
Different one toolkit, do you mean?
Yeah, so the original GUI it had before you did GTK4, what was the GUI written in then?
GTK3,
Okay.
yes. First through the Python wrapper,
Mhm.
then there were all those problems I mentioned before. So I went to GTK-MM, the C++ wrapper
Ah,
for
yeah.
GTK.
Mhm, mhm.
Uh, Not sure. I think it's GTK-MM. I'm not sure how people pronounce its name, but it
I've
is
never
the C++.
heard anyone say it. Your guess is as good as mine.
uh, I'm not sure, but in any case, it is the C++ wrapper for. And the reason was is I like C, but let's say that I like C with moderation.
Mm,
So I didn't really want to go full C language
mhm,
when writing the user interface.
mhm,
So I decided, well, let's try to not go too far away from C++.
mhm,
So I used the wrapper, but eventually I started to need calls, GTK functions that the wrapper did not have.
mhm,
So it was the time when I moved to full GTK3.
mhm. What made you go with GTK3 at the time?
So the reason for GTK, as much as some people may not believe, it was the best tool at
Mhm,
the time. So the reason is, like I mentioned before, I was already used to use GStreamer
mm,
to do some programs. And although you can use GStreamer outside of GTK, you can use it in a Qt application.
mhm,
Uh, it is more straightforward to use GStreamer in GTK when you need to bind properties from
mm,
one side to another. You can do it on other toolkits, but the truth is GStreamer talks the same language GTK does. So it is easier, it is faster to bind. So as the application needed GStreamer,
mhm,
being more specific, the application would still need GStreamer if we were still using PulseEffects.
mhm,
Actually, the one that made GStreamer not necessary was Pipewire.
mhm, mhm. That was the
Pulse
next thing
Audio
I was
does
gonna
not
ask you about.
offer. Yeah, Pulse Audio does not offer what we needed to not use GStreamer. And while you are still using GStreamer,
Mm,
it makes a lot more sense to use GTK.
mhm, mhm.
That, that was the only reason. It was easier to bind the graphical interface properties to GStreamer properties
Mhm.
using GTK.